My name's Kennedy Bright. I am a sports content creator. I teach sports to girls. I like to use what I learned in journalism by doing athlete stories and sharing the stories of athletes and things like that. But most importantly is just making sure that everyone feels welcomed in the world of sports and like has insight.
And of course, how do you incorporate Black culture into your content?
I would say probably the first, because one of my favorite topics in sports is the evolution of the Black quarterback and like all that they've had to overcome to get to be in the position that they are, and still the racism and difficulty they deal with today, which is actually insane. And so I like to highlight a lot of Black quarterbacks as much as I can, and try to cover them. Like I did a story on them back during Black History Month, but really wanting to make sure also that a lot of the stories of all athletes, but especially Black athletes, are being told so that maybe their stories can inspire other kids who are growing up in the same situations or like environments as them.
And of course, what are some things people should know about Juneteenth and what should be recognized?
I think it should definitely be known about how long it took us to actually be free compared to the country itself. I think it kind of shows why it's such an important holiday. Um, I mean, for all people, but especially for Black Americans, just simply because, to think about we celebrate the 4th of July and it's such a big deal of, the freedom, from the British. And it's like, but yet we struggled to be free here, for so long. And then even how long it took the message to get to the South. I think it's just always a reminder not to necessarily have to be, shoved down people's throats, but to carry with a sense of pride and understanding for, I would say, not just the holiday, but for what it kind of represents. Because there are a lot of things still going on today that we're struggling with, but I definitely think that it's a conversation that should always continue to be had, even if it's in a way of more like celebration. Like that's why a lot of people like the movie Sinners, because they felt like even though it highlighted the time that we lived in, but seeing them, creating their own community, seeing them having the environment to have the juke join and just enjoying each other, I think sometimes just highlighting the beauty of what our people had to overcome, even if it's not necessarily talking so much, just always about the negative part about it, but just kind of like, well, how did they maneuver? How did they still choose to have community and things like that? And making sure that everyone, like our own kids that obviously we did not live in that time, we didn't either, but we'll have an idea of knowing, having a sense of pride.
What are some conversations, of course, surrounding Juneteenth people should be aware of?
I think start definitely the conversation about just why it's important is like a really big one because I think that some people are like, oh, well, why does it have to be a holiday or, why is it a big deal? But just knowing the difference in how Africa, like the slaves were a part of literally building this country, the White House and building the, economic system and things that we have to know that all of that was built, but with them kind of like against their will. And to know that we celebrate such a, this country is so great. And we talk about, how much this country has, but to know that it was on the backs of a lot of, enslaved people, I think is important because when you kind of take that into perspective, you kind of can appreciate it's like giving honor to those people. Like, yes, they say 4th of July, is for the country itself, but to think that they were still helping build this country, but while still being, oppressed and enslaved, it's a really big deal. And so I think that it honestly just pays tribute to those who have gone through so much. It's like honoring them. Not necessarily thank you, but I'm sorry for what you went through and look at where we are, today and all the things that we have and the inventions that they were able to come up with.
And of course, how will you celebrate Juneteenth this month?
This is a good one because I am such a like in-house person. So I am not like I do not go outside or things like that. And so when I thought of this, I'm like, this is actually a really good question because it doesn't mean I have to go to a rally or go to a certain, food place. But maybe if that is when I decide to get food this week, okay, where can I go that's a Black owned place and finding different places that I already normally would go. Like if I know I'm going to just have this routine, this is what I want to do. Okay, having that. But for me also, it's about learning more. There's so much I still do not know. There's so much that even on the sports side of things that I talk about how much I like. Learning more about the history and being able so that way when conversations come up, I'm able to be more educated and have those conversations with people and educate them on the topic, especially just even in the sports space, just knowing kind of what they've overcome I think is really good. If I was back home in Kansas City, because I do live in Dallas now, we have a Negro Leagues museum that's really nice. Like it's really big. I've been to it a few times, but like events were held there, but just kind of taking the time to really go through it. If I was in DC, I really want to go to that museum. Um, it's like I don't know if the whole thing is African American, but I do know they have, oh, go ahead.
Yes or no? I'm from Maryland, so of
Okay.
course, yeah. No, it's called the
Yes.
African American Museum. Yes, and I'm also
Okay.
planning on going soon. Actually, yeah.
Yes, because I know they have, I was watching the evolution of the Black quarterbacks on Prime and they went to it. And it's like a whole sports section. I was like, oh my God, I would love to just like, I mean, all of it's great, but especially that part, like just to sit and just like see all of it. So I was like, if these were the things that I would do, this would be like the World Cup was going on right now. And so originally my sister, we were going to take her on a trip for graduating. I was like, we should go back to DC. If we do, we gotta go during Juneteenth because that's when we went for her after she graduated high school. And it was just like, oh, the environment was just amazing there and stuff. So I hate that I've gotten all this stuff going on. So I wasn't able to go this year doing it. But those would be some things like if I was, like I said, in those areas, I definitely would. But I mean, everything's free online. Just researching myself would be beneficial.
And of course, what advice do you have for, Black creators, who of course create sports content, on different social media platforms, but also, who want to get into, the sports industry?
I would say first is really figuring out what it is that you want to do outside of just like the umbrella. I think the title and like the field you want to go in is like a tip of the iceberg. And I think what gets you like longevity and what helps you move forward is really knowing like your own personal why, why you want to do it, and then making sure that your content, your why is showing up in your content. So like for me, a lot of people, for example, I'm dyslexic with a math and reading disability and I have ADD. So growing up, school was really hard for me, and sports was my outlet because school was, I was struggling to read. I'm like, we got a long ways to go here in elementary school. And so I always felt so like confused when everyone else got stuff in class and everyone else understood things. And so for me, it was always, I didn't want other people to feel that same way about sports. And so that's how I started explaining sports to girls, on TikTok because it was and for anyone obviously, but it's like I just never wanted people to be sitting in a conversation or sitting around people. It's one thing if you know what they're talking about, you just don't care to listen. It's another thing to feel like I have no clue what they're talking about, so I'm not going to listen. Like two different things. And so just never wanting anyone to ever felt how I felt in school. And so that kind of shows up in why I pick my topics, how I explain it, how I do, and the passion behind it. And so I definitely think if you could find out why you want to do something, what about it? It's not just like, oh, I want to be on TV. Okay, well, why do you want to be TV? Like it has to be more than just that. So really figuring that out is going to help you continue to create content. And then also too, if you're a faith person, definitely asking God because he is going to guide you through everything. And whatever his answer is, his direction is definitely going to help you be able to just succeed in whatever spot it is because his, thoughts are never ending. So I definitely would say though, finding your passion and then doing your best to only focus on your own lane, especially if you're doing anything content wise, because it can be hard. A lot of people will tell you like network, and follow other creators, but it can be difficult if you follow too many people. You have too many people's analytics, in your brain, too many people's following. Oh, well, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're talking about this, and it can become so much. So I would definitely say try to limit your interactions with social media wise, with people. I mean, if you genuinely met somebody somewhere, like, yeah, of course, connect with them, but just, cold following people, I just would recommend not doing that because it can start with the comparison and things like that in the aspect of if you're doing something like creation. But if you're going to do like traditional like journalism, it's a bit different because I mean, you can go follow people on LinkedIn, things like that. But if it's like where you're supposed to be, social media can sometimes, I will say, feel like people don't like you when you look at likes and things like that. You're like, oh my God, people aren't liking me. Because I mean, it is you putting yourself out there. It is you putting your content out there. So the less comparison that you can have, the better. And so that's kind of would be like my biggest advice.
And of course, first and foremost, I just want to applaud you because I'm
Oh,
someone who's also very interested in sports.
okay.
Um, I don't know if I can share this. I started like a sports magazine last year. It's just
Oh,
kind of
wow.
like college based a little bit, where like I
Uh-huh.
interview, of course, like college athletes, from different, universities, but also at the same time kind of exploring their artistic side. So, I one of my friends, she's a cheerleader from Northwestern. I interviewed her about being a cheerleader, but also like, enjoying writing as well. So like kind of things like that. And I've been able to interview like other athletes too. Like I think the coolest one was where I had interviewed Erin Jackson. She was in the Winter Olympics, and so
Oh,
I feel
wow.
like yeah, that was really cool too. And I don't know. I just think especially with like how I look up to, especially like with Black women, especially in the sports industry. Like so, again, just wanted to applaud you on
Oh,
what you're
thank
doing.
you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that and keep working. I feel like too, like I did YouTube when I was in college, but it was like kind of like it was for fun, but it wasn't this. But I think like your magazine and things like that, like starting that kind of stuff now always is like beneficial. I was at a NFL player had a camp that I was covering last week, and there was a kid there, he was taking photos and he's in high school. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, he got like the big old lens and everything. I'm like, it's never too early to start like getting the reps in, and stuff. Like I think that's like very important. Just keep going. And that's really big. And so, and when you ever feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough, or feel like things are not going well or whatever, or like, well, oh, so and so, they're getting to do this, they're getting to go here. Like just
Yeah.
remind yourself about how you said you got to interview, someone, an Olympian. Like remind yourself of those things. Some people, you should be humble to others, but to yourself, you should not be humble on the inside. Like never to like yourself, your parents, like your friends, like people who really know you. You should always be gassing yourself up. Like, do you know who I am? Like, I didn't get picked for this job. Like, are you serious right now? No, you should not be like that to other people. I always tell people the difference when humble comes in is when you're comparing yourself and putting other people down.
Mhm.
That's when you're not being humble. But at the end of the day, no, you should always be in here gassing yourself up. Every time you feel down, you need to remember, I did this, I did that, I've interviewed these people. Who else has done that? Who else has done that? Like, you have to talk to yourself like that in order to get yourself out of like moments of comparisons or slumps and just to keep building, yourself up. Because there's going to be plenty of times that you're even just like I feel in the corporate aspect of like journalism. It's like, gosh, they got a job at ESPN and I didn't get this interview or I didn't make it this
Yeah.
far. Like you're gonna go through all of that, but you just have to keep reminding yourself all the time, like who you are and being like, well, I don't care. I know what I bring to the table when they don't. So it's whatever. And again, it's not like never have an image of a person specifically, because then yeah, then that's when it gets to where you're not humble, but just speaking, as I say, generalize it, whoever it is that they gonna pick, they not me. And it's fine when you say it that way because you're not literally talking about a actual person. Because you're just speaking in general. You're speaking about yourself. And I think you just have to do that. And people get mad. People, if you want to post on your video and talk about, I know I'm the best to ever do it, and I'm the prettiest person that anyone's ever seen. I'm gonna see somebody say that. I'm like, period, girl. And I'm gonna keep scrolling. Some people like to be mad and be like, oh my God, you can't say that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
the problem if I say that me and then I'm talking about a girl named Samantha and I'm like, I'm way prettier than her. I'm way pretty. She ain't nothing on me. Then yeah, that's rude. Now you're not humble, all of those things. But when I just think about myself, you just have to talk that way. So throughout this journey, I'm very long-winded. I apologize. Throughout this journey, remember that that's a very big deal. You've interviewed an Olympian. Make sure you know if you're ever having like interviews or you're speaking to people in the space, make sure you say that. Make sure if it's on your website, LinkedIn bio, whatever the case may be, make sure that it is there. And we live in an age of luckily with social media where you can kind of create your own thing. So keep your magazine, keep that things going because you never know. It may be hard to get your start, in the corporate, more side of things, traditional media and journalism. But you might turn around and look like, well, dang, I mean, it has been a little difficult, but I'm doing all these things here on my side. And sometimes it can help you, get things on the corporate side of things. But definitely just always keep going and and take breaks though. Take breaks because you can get, especially with sports, you can get very burned out because it's always something going on and people want you to trace all the trends. Girl, it's okay. Like, and I mean, not even trends like what's popular. It's so different in sports because everything trends, I mean, like the World Cup's going on. Then, I think we just had the college World Series for women. I think men are still going right now, or they might have just ended a couple days ago. Like, I
I,
mean, it's so much
and
happening.
the Knicks too, like it's a lot.
Yes, they just ended. And so it's a little weird that I'm like, oh, okay, not every other day or every couple of days there's something else going on. But so it's like you'll get a moment where it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much. And that's why I say you kind of have to ask God, like, okay, based off of me, do a little audit. Based off me, my content, my audience, what's going to be beneficial? Now, see, I'm assuming in New York, right? Because NYU.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Knicks, obviously, that's going to make a lot of sense or whatever. That should be, at the top of my list because of where I'm at, people being able to see it. But talking about Texas in the, College World Series and then and for the men and then I'm not TCU, Texas Tech and the women's on Texas, like, it's like, I could get to that, but that's not as beneficial based off of probably my audience. I'm gonna put that down there for a second. I'm gonna prioritize this. Just kind of like having to figure because it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's then the Stanley Cup was going on. It just ended.
Hmm.
Like, it's too much. Sometimes it's too much. And they all seem popular, they all seem good, and then you can get overwhelmed, especially when you're doing it by yourself. Because like I don't have like an assistant, a team, or anything like that. It's a lot when you're doing it by yourself. You see people like Shannon Sharp. I mean, they're on there multiple times, but they have people that help them. They have producers that help research and find the things for them. So it seems like it should be manageable for one person to do, but it's like, yeah, but one person has a team. So that's another bit of advice too. When you're doing things on your own, it would be a lot. So yes, sorry.
No,
I can't.
it's okay. Thank you, no, so much. I try my best not to, downplay my accomplishments and stuff,
Yeah.
especially something like that. I did happen to post it on my LinkedIn, so it's
Yeah.
there. But yeah,
Make sure it's on that LinkedIn. Yes. Yeah, that got to be right there. You got to find some. And what will end up happening is the older you're going to get, you'll realize, like, that actually was kind of cool, like what I did. Like, at I feel like when you're in college and you're in the moment, you're so like, oh, I'm trying to,
yes.
like get to this next level. And like you have this idea. Like for me, I wanted to be an NFL like sideline reporter and I wanted to work for like ESPN and stuff. So when I was in college, I was a sports editor at our university's sports newspaper, like the sports area. And we got the opportunity, they were having the college breakthrough series, and it was like the softball, like Olympians were coming and stuff. And so MLB had needed someone to cover it that was on the ground. And so I got contract with them to be a stringer reporter. And so I was doing that. And at the time, it was just like, cool, whatever, like nice. But really, like now that I'm like older and look back at it, I'm like, that was pretty cool. You got to interview like softball Olympians in high
Yeah.
school, right? Not high school, I mean in college. Like you do get that, right? And it's like in that time though, it's like, oh, cool, like thanks, like grateful for the opportunity. Thanks, God. But I'm so focused on like, I want I'm ready to be here. This is where
Right.
overall that you
To the
sometimes
next
don't
big
get it.
thing.
Yeah, and I think that's what they like the saying or whatever, you're living in an answered prayer. And so I think kind of like taking moments to really kind of see like, oh wow,
Yes.
that was actually really good. And like making sure it's like almost meditating on it so that you feel it inside. Like I got to interview this person, like I got access to this person and like reminding yourself that over and over because it'll help with your confidence and feeling like at the next opportunities and stuff, you're qualified and you're ready. And so I think, yeah, you're gonna get to a point where it's just like right now, it's probably like, oh, that was good, and it's on there. And like when I go back to like LinkedIn and I see like the articles I did, I'm like, sorry, I was published on MLB's website. Like, excuse me, like, and it takes a minute, but it's like then I didn't even see that as cool because I'm seeing like kids getting internships with NFL teams in the summer, and I'm seeing kids. I had made it to the second round of the NBA's summer internship program. Like, I didn't get it. So I'm focused on that kind of stuff. And I'm like,
Mm.
but see, when you're there, that's where your brain's at. You're seeing everyone else's like resume and everyone else is interning with this person and all those things. I would definitely say you have to sometimes remember, although I am wanting to be here, where I'm at right now is so cool. And think about where I was before I got to this point. That person thinks right now is like really cool too.
Yes.
So yeah, you got to kind of have to, do that. I was gonna say Substack is a really good place to post your work too, because it's more of like I use it now like my own like writing. It was funny. I went and got me a new AP book because I was like, oh my goodness, like I don't know where my old AP book is from school. So I got me a new AP book, a little spiral. Like I want to make sure my writing is correct, and stuff. But I think it'll be really good too to post your magazine stuff on there because since it's like a TikTok, like Instagram, people will find it a lot faster and stuff. Although I teach to women, I don't only talk about like women's sports. Like some people are like that, but there's just different ones like that. And you set it up and it's like a own like website and stuff. And it get like emails out and notifies on the app, like when you
Mm.
write stories and people can reshare them and stuff like that. So then that way, I think is another good way too. You could keep your magazine, of course, but it would be a good way for people then to bring traction there. Mine's written as a Gossip Girl POV. So
Mm.
it's written like Gossip Girl is the narrator is telling the stories or whatever. But yeah, so it's just kind of like it's just neat. And even too, because obviously you can pick like how much you share on there, how much you don't. But I think too, like in the beginning, like getting some of the stuff you already have on your website, like kind of like on there would
Mm.
be good because then people can see it. People will start like, and the subscriptions are free. And some people can pay for subscriptions or whatever, but I mean, like it can be free to like, it's free to subscribe. And then you start getting like subscribers. It's like, oh my goodness, you know? And so then people can see that and that can just start building up, traction to your, your magazine on your site and stuff too.
Okay, okay. Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay. Oh, this was really fun. It is just like again, like it's so fun to also speak to somebody, who's also interested in sports and just like
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. And yes, I will send the references and I enjoyed this as well. But like, again, if you have any questions or anything, please let me know.
Of course.
And this is because are you on the radio at your school or okay, cool. Is that one of the things you really like though?
Yeah, I've been doing journalism for almost like 5 years almost. I was in my broadcast and journalism like academy during high school, and then of course like in college I was like, oh, like I want to of course like start joining like a radio station, and so like it's been really cool, of course, just like doing this and just still participating in journalism.
Yes, nice. Well, congratulations. This is also good. Make sure you tell people this as well, that
Yes.
you go to religious school. You gotta sometimes you just gotta big your own self up because nobody else is gonna do it for you. Sometimes your parents will, but they do it in like an annoying way, and it's like, stop, you're embarrassing me to like people. And it's like, no, you're doing it wrong. You sound like we're bragging. We're not supposed to be
Yeah.
bragging. We're supposed to just be telling facts, and you sound like you're bragging. But you gotta show them this is how slide things in the conversations. Well, okay, yes. I'll talk to you all day about anything. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.